In this video, you're going to discover one of the cruelest and most forgotten punishments in human history, a method of execution so perverse that it turned the human body into a living field of torture, feeding worms, attracting insects, and prolonging suffering to the edge of the unimaginable. Very few people know about this technique called Scaphism, and maybe that's for the best. But now that you're here, I have to tell you, because understanding this is like staring into the abyss of human cruelty. But the question no one can ignore is, how does this technique work and why was it created? Why create something so meticulously cruel? And why does no one talk about it anymore? To understand this technique in detail, we need to dive into the inner workings of one of the most powerful empires of the ancient world, Persia. That's where the story begins, and what follows will leave you speechless. Conceived at the height of the Achaemenid Empire, often referred to as the First Persian Empire, this was the empire of kings like Cyrus, Darius, and Xerxes, a vast territory stretching from Egypt to India. And one thing held that dominance together: total loyalty to the king. Those who broke that rule paid dearly, very dearly. Scaphism emerged in this context. It wasn't a common punishment. It was reserved for extreme cases like treason, desertion, or conspiracy against the state. It was the kind of punishment meant for those who directly challenged the authority of the throne. And more than just killing the traitor, the goal was to send a clear message to everyone. No one betrays the king and walks away unpunished. The suffering was part of the warning, and the condemned were displayed for all to see. Here's an interesting detail. The name Scaphism comes from the Greek scaphe, meaning boat or hull. The Persians themselves didn't use that name. They referred to it more simply, the boats. That's how the punishment was known in ancient Persia. So you might be wondering, how exactly was this punishment carried out? How could someone survive days of such torment? Brace yourself, the most disturbing part is yet to come. The technique of Scaphism was as methodical as it was horrifying. The idea wasn't just to kill, it was to turn the body into a site of slow destruction. First, the condemned was stripped completely naked. Then they were placed between two wooden structures, usually two shallow boats or hollowed-out logs, one underneath, one on top, leaving only the head, arms, and legs exposed. It seems simple, but it was a cruelly efficient immobilization system. The person couldn't move, couldn't escape, only wait. From there, the torture began. Every day, executioners would force the condemned to ingest large quantities of milk and honey, not as an act of mercy but as a strategy. The excess caused severe diarrhea, and since the victim couldn't leave, they were trapped in their own filth. That's when true hell began. The immobilized body, covered in excrement and fluids, became the perfect environment for infections, fungi, worms, anything that could prolong pain. And the Persians made sure to smear the victim's skin with honey, spreading it on the face, eyes, mouth, genitals, wounds. Why? To attract insects. Lots of insects. Some would lay eggs. Within hours, maggots began to hatch inside the living flesh. Over time, the body began to rot while still alive. Wounds became infected. Skin necrotized. Eyes swelled. In extreme cases, even rodents and birds were drawn in to feed on the rotting flesh. All this while the victim still breathed, still felt pain, still remained conscious. And that wasn't all. During the day, the scorching sun caused heat stroke and burns. At night, the cold froze the body, deepening the agony. Dehydration was slow, and death even slower. But the most perverse part wasn't what happened to the body. It was what happened to the mind. This torture didn't happen in secret. No hidden dungeons or silent executions. Scaphism was carried out in public places, visible, strategic, along riverbanks, in the middle of trade routes, near villages. The goal was to show everyone what happened to those who defied the king. The executioners returned every day, not to kill quickly, but to keep the victim alive for as long as possible. They wanted it to last. They wanted everyone to see. They wanted everyone to remember. And it worked. The fear it generated was collective. It wasn't just the body that rotted, it was people's trust in standing up to the system. Because after seeing someone die like that, who would dare challenge the king? This execution method was indeed used, and recorded by one of the greatest historians of antiquity. His name was Plutarch, a respected Greek author, known for his biographies of great historical figures, and it was he who left us the most famous account of the use of Scaphism. The documented victim was a man named Mithridates. He wasn't a typical traitor. In fact, he was a Persian soldier, and his mistake was something else: talking too much. During a military campaign, the empire was facing internal conflict. Cyrus the Younger, brother of King Artaxerxes II, attempted to seize the throne. He was killed in battle. But here comes the problem. The official version claimed that the king himself had slain the rebellious brother, a symbolic gesture of power and legitimacy. But Mithridates, perhaps seeking a bit of glory, publicly boasted that he had killed Cyrus with his own hands. In any other empire, that might have been brushed off as exaggeration. But in Persia, it was seen as a direct attack on royal authority. He had contradicted the king, and that would cost him his life. The punishment was immediate. Mithridates was sentenced to die by Scaphism, in the slowest, most painful way possible. The goal was to make him a lasting example, and that's exactly what happened. According to Plutarch's account, Mithridates survived an astonishing 17 days trapped between the boats. As his body decayed alive, soldiers came day after day, just to make sure he didn't die too soon. This was one of the longest and best documented executions of antiquity, and probably one of the most cruel. After all this, it's hard to even find words. We're talking about a punishment that went beyond physical pain. It combined public humiliation, living decomposition, and the kind of suffering that made the victim wish for death every single day, and still not achieve it. Even though some details are still debated by historians, and the number of times this method was actually used may have been small, its symbolic impact is undeniable. Now tell me, do you know of any execution method more cruel in history? Share your opinion in the comments. If you found this video as disturbing as it is fascinating, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so YouTube can bring you more content like this. To learn about the horrors suffered by female pirates who were captured, click here on the screen and check it out.